The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash Etchman from Tash Invest and Ana Christina from Perla. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you.
Welcome to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast,
where we take you from beginner to confident investor,
where we can teach you everything you need to know about investing.
So come get rich slow with us. It's end of financial year, and we thought it would be a really good time for us to talk a little bit about how the last year went, what our net worth is, investments and how they're doing, and so on, plus some of our goals and our strategy. So let's talk about that. But before we do, what's your money memory or money moment?
Money memory? Money memory works as well. I like that.
What's your money memory and moment of this
money
week?
Moment? I'm in Melbourne at the moment because we're recording in person, which is very exciting. But I booked my hotel on Agoda and then I saw it cheaper and they price match. I didn't know that they price matched.
Oh, great.
So I saved $30.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How do you, I always am in awe that you're finding all these cheaper kind of ways to price match.
I think when I'm just not wanting to do anything, I sit on the couch with my laptop and just scroll hotels sometimes for things that are coming up. And then I will see the hotel cheaper when I'm looking for something else because I was looking at extending the trip. And I was like, that's way cheaper than what I booked it for. Not way cheaper, just a bit cheaper. But I think I remember those numbers really well. They kind of stick in my head. So I was like, oh, no, that was over $300, but now it's under. So yay.
Do you get targeted ads too? And then you're like, oh, look, this is cheaper. Yeah.
Not with Agoda, but with Virgin flights and luxury escapes. They get to me as well. What's yours?
Mine is a very simple one. $17.20 for dry cleaning. I think I told you a while ago that I had this pink top. Actually, we took photos in.
Yes.
And I got some weird stain on it. I think it was actually face care stuff from Emma's book launch. I think it was in my bag and leaked.
Free skincare trials.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't get this out. This is a silk top. I'm really sad. I tried everything that the internet said. And I was like, the dry cleaner, I don't even think they'll get it out. And they were like, oh, it's very unlikely on silk.
Is $17 good for dry cleaning? I don't even know what dry cleaning costs. Or just good because you got to wear the top again?
Good because I didn't lose out on a silk top. Because silk tops are $150 at least.
I don't know. I don't
Silk
think I
is
own
expensive.
a proper silk. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's a top I've had for so long that I just love. So I would pay more.
Okay, yeah. So good value. That was a big
good value for me. Yeah, if not, I would have lost the top. So what can you do?
Yes. So diving into the fun stuff, are we going to start off with our net worths?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's go.
How has yours changed?
Mine, since last year this time, has gone up by 8.22%.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you're looking at shares and whatnot.
Slightly more than inflation.
Slightly more. But the thing is, what you have to remember in this last year is I was barely working. I was on parental leave. I bought very little shares. So anything that maybe potentially compounded around that time, or I reinvested any dividends that I had. My super has increased through work and time. And also, we've just been paying down our property. So
okay. So is that mostly what the net worth increases come from, you think? Paying down the debt?
Paying down debt and just things compounding over the past little while. So that's that, because it would have been completely different had I actually been working and had money that I was continuously investing. So I'm quite happy with this. I actually thought that this was going to be a negative.
Oh, okay. That's a big win then.
Yeah, because I think if you're taking time off full-time work or whatnot, it would have changed. So that's I'm happy with that.
That's exciting. How do you track your net worth?
How do I track it? I track all of it in an Excel doc or a Google Sheets doc.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I only started tracking it again recently this year. I didn't track it at all in 2023. I was just getting a bit, not bored, but I didn't find it exciting anymore. Mm-hmm. So I went back and had a look. My March 2022 net worth update was $291,000. And then my May 2024, so almost 2 and a bit years later, update was $556,000. Which is fun. Yeah.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah. I think it's mostly because my property value has jumped quite a bit. So I own an apartment in Perth and the Perth property market has done really well recently. So a huge chunk of that was from that. And then the rest of it was also, I've still been investing quite a bit. We'll get into that soon, but I was investing back in 2022, $750 a week or $500 a week for most of that. And then I also invested some lump sums that I got as well, a few $5,000 parcels here or there, but most of it was the property growth.
Yeah, that's huge. So that's a difference of over 62%
Yeah, wow.
increase. That's it. Like when you think about, because this is the thing, I found that I remember when I first started investing and I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm down by $100 or $2,000 or whatever it might be, or it's up by 2,000. It's like, it doesn't really matter. But when you're looking at the percentage, then it makes a complete difference whether, or like it's comparing apples to apples. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Instead of focusing on those little drops. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But anyhow, 62% is huge, especially in comparison to my 8%.
Yes, but mine was over 2 and a bit years because I don't have my stuff from 2023.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
So I
this
wonder
is
if
like,
I went back.
2022 to 2024. Yours would probably jump way more from that time period as well if that's like kind of coming out of COVID or maybe
Yeah,
not.
potentially. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I've been tracking my net worth for years. Like I actually was tracking it before I knew what net worth was, like back when I was a teenager and had my first job and I was like, how much money do I have or whatever it might be.
I used to do that as well, just write down on bits of paper, like I have this account and $50 in cash.
Yeah. Who knew that some habits die hard?
Yes.
So let's break down all of the different areas that we're kind of tracking for our end of year financial review. What about property?
Yeah, so I haven't done anything. I haven't bought or sold anything. The interesting things are my property has gone up in value, definitely with the Perth property market. And I've been thinking about increasing my tenant's rent, which is a bit controversial at the moment. But yeah, I haven't raised it for a little while, so I might be putting that up too. So that could be good and increasing income through that. But otherwise, it's just like chugging along. It's doing really well. My mortgage is still fixed at 2.6%. So that ends next year. So I can still enjoy that for a little bit longer. But what about you? You did way more exciting stuff with property.
Yeah, I sold my investment property in Canada. And then for the longest time, the money didn't hit my bank account because of taxes in Canada. And then when it did, it went straight into a high savings interest account because I was still on a fixed mortgage. So part of my mortgage was fixed and that part was fully offset. And so wanted to make some money off of the investment property that I sold. And then once it came off of the fixed mortgage, so now it's around like 6.09%.
Okay.
I put it back into the offset. So that's currently saving us money. And I did a quick calculation and I think I've saved about like 4% of mortgage interest due to our offset account. Okay, that probably doesn't make sense. But what I was going to say is like it's so nice to see a number getting bigger and bigger every month because of the amount that we've offset. So there's a part in the bank account that actually shows how much you've literally paid.
Okay.
So it would have been paid towards interest, but because it's offset, that's actually amount that would be paying down my debt.
So that's where you got the 4.5% from, was that amount? Oh, that's a fun way to look at it, to watch it keep going up.
Yeah. So I like looking at the percentages because numbers just like numbers of what, like it doesn't really matter. Like the number does matter when you're like, oh, I saved, $10,000. But when you're thinking about a percentage of something, it feels more achievable.
Easier to see if it's growing or not when you're like, it's 4% or it's less than that, it's negatives. It's an easy way to keep track for sure.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting year in terms of property. Next one I have on my list is about cash flow. So this is something that's slightly different for me and also for you because you've also changed your employment. But for me, I've started back at work at 2.5 days and that started back in, I think, February or March. And prior to that, I was working a little bit here or there, but it's kind of nice because now our cash flow is balanced. Before we were going quite a bit into our, I guess, emergency fund or offset that we had on the side. And we were kind of going into the negative, if that makes sense, right?
Oh, that's really hard. How did you deal with that?
We knew it was going to be temporary because I took a longer leave. I had emergencies back in Canada. I was writing this book, my other book,
doing all the things, doing the podcast.
Yeah. So we knew that it was okay, but we also had our emergency fund to account for that. So we've been really great and lucky. And also because I sold my property. So I had extra cash, like an extra influx of cash that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So
did you find it really demotivating watching yourself not go forward? Or you were okay because you're like, this is just temporary, it'll be fine?
I think my partner found it harder than I did because also he's the only one like actually working full time and feels like it's not going forward. So that's really hard, right? Like you're the one who's working, you're not seeing the money go forward, whereas I was the one who's not working or working less. And so for me, I knew that was what was going to happen.
Yeah, there wasn't that disconnect of like, well, what am I working for?
Yeah. And for him, it was just much harder, I think, in that way because your cash flow is negative, right?
Yeah, and especially when you are so into your finances and you check where everything's going and you know what your plan is to see it go backwards, it's really hard to switch that mindset.
That's why I'm surprised that it's up 8%.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm surprised, because I didn't think that was going to be the case.
Well, here's your reminder to everyone to go and check how it's changed, because you might be doing better than you thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess like I did have some money coming in, right? Like I was still working a little bit at Perler. I still had some book royalties, affiliate marketing, and some speaking opportunities. So that was great.
You spoke at Mecca.
I did. Yes.
That's amazing. What a career achievement.
I'm very, very excited. That was really fantastic. They're so lovely there. It was really great. And another thing is like we've been really good at tracking the money coming in and out. So we've been using Frollo and just keeping on top of all our spending. We had some really big purchases this year too. And again, we accounted for that with the selling of the property. So aircon installs, we got a car, early childhood education and care costs a lot of money. Childcare ain't cheap. And and all of that kind of depends on your income. So at least we had some subsidies there because our income was lower, if that makes sense.
Did you know you were going to buy a car this past year?
We've been waiting to buy a car for like 5 years. And it just so happened that my family was supposed to come. So we were like, let's just do it now.
Oh, okay. That was the trigger for it.
Yeah. But then they didn't because of health stuff. So
but now you have a new car.
I know. We were like, well, do we do it? Do we not? And then we're like, we'll just be kicking the can down the road. Is that the saying?
Yes.
Kick the can down the road. We'll just buy a car later. And we're like, let's just do it now. So
yeah, awesome. It's been a big year. Now
it's been a really expensive year, which is why 8%.
Amazing. You've done well.
What Congrats. The heck? Yay.
Yay compounding.
Yay compounding. Honestly, it makes the huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. My cash flow has been interesting because I quit my job back in April last year to do this stuff full time. It's been okay because I've got one regular sponsor, and that could go away at any time. But for now, that's kind of like the consistent income that I get. I found it quite hard to go from being employed to completely managing my own business finances because I really like to save. And with business stuff, you need to pay for things. And it's hard to have money but know that it's going to my own taxes and GST and then to super, and then I pay myself and then I have to pay for other things too. So that's been a hard mindset switch. But I got a bookkeeper. So that's been really awesome because he kind of deals with all of the little admin things that I don't want to do with that and does my BAS statements, which I hated doing. So that's been awesome. But yeah, it's been interesting switching from that mindset of here's the guaranteed income to you kind of have to go and find it yourself.
So do you have to track your cash flow very like meticulously, or is that your bookkeeper's job?
No, he's the bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I've got a nice buffer in there now. Like I didn't before, but now because I switched over from being a sole trader to a company. So I had to open all new bank accounts and like kind of start putting money in the company's name instead. So it took me a little while to build that up, but now I've got a buffer in there. So I can pay myself for 6 months if I need to as like my base salary, even if something happens, which is awesome. But kind of like getting all of that set up and getting used to like a different money system, it really highlighted the importance of having a system because it kind of threw my other systems out of whack for a little while, and that definitely impacted things. But now I've got a system that works, that's set up again.
That's what I hear from a lot of freelancers or people who have their own business. It's not like you don't always get the steady income. So you have to kind of like figure out your books and how you're going to work that out, whether you're going to have income that comes in or whether it's going to be a regular and your emergency fund. So can you just talk a little bit about how you think about your own business finances?
Yeah. So I want to buy another property this year. So that's my goal. But to do that, I need to pay myself a decent income. So I've worked out how much I'll need to earn and then worked backwards from that. So then I now transfer myself a weekly pay amount that matches that yearly salary. And then every quarter or every month now, I think they might have changed it, my bookkeeper sends me a thing to pay my super. So then I pay the super on top of that to myself, which is interesting. And then I also pay and then I leave enough money in my bank account to pay, in my business bank account to pay my GST and tax bills as well. But initially I was just transferring myself money when I needed it, but that's a hard way to do stuff. Like there's no regular routine. Yeah. It's just like a bit, whenever it comes in, which is not the best way to do it. But now I've got like my regular weekly amount like a job.
It's almost like, when you have a spend account and you're like, okay, well, I just need some money. So I'm just going to use it, or I'm going to take it from my savings and I'm going to use it. But if you have a system, you're not tempted to kind of just move things around. Yeah,
because I still wanted to invest and I still had all my bills on auto direct debit as well. So I needed to make sure I had enough in there for when that was happening. And I was kind of forgetting when they were coming out because I was like, I'll just transfer it. And I had the money, but it wasn't in the right account. So now there's always money in there because it's coming in every week, no matter what.
And also how smart that you know how much money you literally need coming in order to purchase a property. Because my bestie did the exact same thing, being like, I need to pay myself more than I usually would so that I can get a mortgage, so I can get a house.
Yeah. Still have to figure out how to give myself bonuses because he does all the pay slips and stuff. So I don't really know to figure that out. So apparently you can pay yourself a dividend. All these new things to learn.
Yes. Other friends who have businesses and paying themselves in dividends, that's a whole other conversation.
Yes, yeah. Need a new accountant, I think, but yeah.
So you talked a little bit about how you're planning on buying a property in the next little while. What are some of your financial strategies or money ideas moving forward?
With investing, I don't think we've spoken about shares too much yet. I went from investing like $750 to $500 to now like $200 a week because with changing employment and now having my own company, I don't know how much I'm going to be earning consistently. Like, yes, I'm paying myself that set amount for now, but I don't want to over invest if I don't have the money in the end. So now I only invest $200 a week. And then at the end of every quarter, I might top it up and put in more, which has worked out well for me. But yeah, other than that, it's buying a property. So I've been saving a lot more money in cash again because I didn't do that for a few years. I was just putting everything into shares. But now I've started building up my cash again.
Do you find that shift hard? Like from going from investing and feeling as though it's growing to savings?
Yes and no. Yes, because I liked seeing the amount go into Perla all the time, but also no, because I see it in the savings account and that's quite fun too. Like it's still sitting there like staring at me. So that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm earning interest again. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So over the last year, I've only invested any dividends and maybe like we'll top it up to $1,000 or something, but have not been investing at all, which has been really sad. So now that I'm officially back at work, I'm hoping that I'm going to have a set amount because I haven't since I've kind of started back, because our big strategy in our household is that we want to put as much money into the offset for the next 2 years. Because for anyone who's owned property or bought property with a giant mortgage, you realize that the interest is the largest at the beginning of that loan. And then you end up paying off principal more and more as the timeline has continued. So for us, the more money we have in our offset means that the less interest we're going to pay in the long run. And when we kind of ran the numbers, around 2 years is probably the biggest chunk of that interest that we'd be paying.
Oh, interesting.
And then we're hoping that we'll take little by little out of the offset and invest lump sums as
Interesting. Is that somewhat called debt recycling?
We are hoping to debt recycle. Yeah. So we're hoping to like pay down a part of the loan, which we'd have to actually pay into the loan because right now it's just a larger amount we would do. And then we would have to pull that out as another loan that we are planning to invest, which is debt recycling.
Awesome. We have to do a whole episode on that. I've had a few questions about it. So I need to get someone else on.
Yeah, because I haven't done it yet. I just know that we want to do it based on our strategy. We just haven't gotten there yet.
And I'll be able to do it next year as well once my loan comes off the fixed interest, because then I'll have that huge jump as well from whatever it is.
Yeah. So that's the plan, but it just feels really boring. Like sometimes I think financial strategies that you have change depending on where you are in your time frame. Like right now you're saving for an apartment. Other times you're investing because you want to get ahead. And right now it's literally putting as much money in our offset to offset our mortgage. And eventually it'll change. Hopefully it'll be debt recycling and we'll be investing for our future.
Yeah. Or interest rates will go down soon, maybe in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is also once we get to that point where we're potentially ready to debt recycle, we might run the numbers and see if it's worth buying an investment property.
Ooh.
But it kind of depends on a couple different things. What kind of cash flow, how much money are we planning on putting in, where, if we want to do an investment property, what our income is, because depending on if you're high income or low income, what's the optimal strategy when it comes to debt recycling versus, let's say, negative gearing.
Yeah, and what's your borrowing capacity as well.
Yeah. And all of that changes when you're on parental leave as well, right? Because I haven't worked, so...
Are you planning on going back to work more days in the future or staying part-time?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
To be
determined. Right now, I think we've talked a lot about this especially in our book, How to Not Work Forever. I'm kind of happy with like 2.5 days, which is really fantastic. Some money's coming in, but then also I can work on like side projects, things I'm passionate about, and potentially like, I think that's another goal for me, seeing if I can increase some of my income, whether that's passively and so forth. So we will see. To be determined. Yeah.
Would you consider going back to work for more days to buy another property? Or would you just say, oh no, that's not for us right now then, if you needed to somehow increase your borrowing capacity?
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah, if that was the goal. I think it always comes down to those financial things, like people who want to take on more hours and in order to make more money to save faster, to having a higher borrowing capacity. All of that is possible. But
I've been thinking about this with getting a job, because like getting a loan when you are employed by yourself can be quite challenging. But as an OT, like you can get all of those, what is it, like 10% with no LMI because you're like one of the healthcare professionals. Like you can get lots of benefits like that. So sometimes I'm almost tempted just to go back and work for 6 months or a year, because it would be a lot easier for me to get a home loan that way.
Would you do that?
Not anytime soon, maybe. I think I kind of want to go back to work part-time anyway after the book stuff, but I'm not sure. Still deciding.
Yeah. like similarly to me, it's good to have those options in the back of your pocket if you want to do that. But it's also like priorities shift, right? It might be like, yes, I want to buy that property faster. I want to have a higher mortgage or whatever it might be. And therefore I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And other times it's like, well, I just really like my life right now.
I can just put it into shares instead.
Yeah.
Less dilemmas.
Yeah. So it's a lot of considerations.
Yeah.
That's why I love saying that, but it's true. Personal finance is personal because it really is. What you would do is very different to what I would do.
Yeah. And what I would do now versus 3 years ago is so different as well.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, this was great. Let us know if you enjoyed this episode. You can pre-order our book. It comes out in a week's time, I think, from now, which is awesome. 26th of June. So make sure you pre-order. We've also got book launches as well happening in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and Brisbane. So check out our social media for those links. But yeah, join our Facebook group and say hi to us.
Hi.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club or Tash at Tash Invest or me at Ana Cristina.
This show was brought to you by Natasha Etchman, who is an authorized representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorized representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info.